like everybody to sign it. And if there's not enough class. Okay. There you go. Just want to get there. There you go. Alright. Now, we have just a little PowerPoint presentation that we want to show you. And it's kind of like, it's on a small screen. And it's over here on this table on the computer. And if you can see it, we would really like to show it to you. I'm going to start it. And then after that, we have a special speaker. Okay. Is it going on its own? Oh. Okay. Nope, it's not. Okay. Well, okay. If you'd like to stop by and look at this PowerPoint presentation, because it's not moving on its own, we'd really like that. And at this time, I would like to introduce to everybody Dr. Riley. Okay.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Murray State University Parents Weekend. Dr. Islam had asked me a couple of weeks ago if I would come and speak to some parents, and I said, well, what's the topic going to be about? And she said, well, we'd like for you to talk about expectations you have for students. And so I thought, wow, that's a pretty broad topic. And but I've had a couple of weeks to think about it, and so that's what I'm going to be talking a little bit about today. I kind of like to know my audience before I get started, though. So I know we have some people here from Richmond who drove 5 hours to get here. Did anyone else come further than Richmond today? Okay. Central Illinois. Okay. How long does it take you to get here? 6 hours. Okay. And where do we have some other people from? Oh, okay. Willie Mills, Illinois. We're about an hour north of Chicago. Oh, wow. Okay. I bet you came down yesterday. Yes. Okay. And where are the rest of you from?
We're from Columbia, Illinois, near St. Louis.
Okay, near St.
St.
Louis.
Louis are far off compared to them.
Shelby County. Okay.
To Lexington, yeah.
Lexington. All right. Lexington.
Shelby County.
Okay. All right.
They're not far.
And I've met one of my former students. I'm with the College of Education, and I teach early childhood education courses. I used to teach elementary school in Madisonville. And Courtney, I found out, was one of my students in second grade years and years ago. I'm glad to meet her again today. And if I had a door prize, I'd give our 6-hour or 7-hour people a door prize, but I didn't have a door prize to reach. As I was thinking about what Dr. Islam asked me to talk about, I thought, well, I think I'm going to focus more on my hopes for my students rather than my expectations. And these are probably things that you can expect a teacher to say, and it's probably nothing new to you, but one of the things, and I made some notes for myself, one of the things that I would hope my students would be able to do is come to my classes. And normally I teach juniors and seniors and graduate students, but even as freshmen, I would hope they would be able to come to my classes with a reading level, the writing level, the oral language level, enough to be successful in my class. I would like for them to be able to write a paragraph that I can read and that it makes sense. And I know they're not going to, as freshmen, be as proficient as they are hopefully when they leave us as seniors. But if they come in with some of those basic skills, I think it helps them as they're working in their classes. And so on the academic level, those basic skills so that they can proceed to learn without having to struggle so much to write a good paragraph or to read a college-level textbook. Because when you're struggling to do those things, you're missing a lot of content sometimes. So I would hope that they would come in with those types of skills so that they can pursue their academic interests. And of course, responsibility. And I think that's one thing that you hear from everyone. I would like my students to be responsible. Responsible enough to come to class when they're supposed to, on time, prepared, ready to participate. And for some students, being away from home the first time, that's a little tricky. No one's there to get them up. No one's there to say it's time to go to school, it's time to get on the bus. They're responsible for it, sometimes for the first time in their whole life. So for some of them, it's a little tricky. With my juniors and seniors, they've managed to figure out how to get there a little bit easier sometimes than the freshmen have. But that first semester can be very tricky. So responsible enough to be in class. I know some professors take off points if you're absent. I don't do that. My feeling is you are a young adult. You are here in order to learn. I tell my students the first day of class, we learn together. We learn from each other. I learn from you, you learn from me. If you're not here, you can't learn from me, I can't learn from you, you can't learn from each other. So we miss something if you're not in class. And generally, that's all it takes. I've never had a problem with my students being absent. And so I've never had to find any other way to hold them accountable. They are pretty accountable for themselves by the time they get to me. I would also like them to be responsible enough to come and seek me out if they have questions. Don't wait for me to come to you with questions. If you have questions, come to me. And I would like them to be responsible enough to see me as an advisor. I'll have advisees assigned to us, and if I'm your advisor, again, don't wait for me to come to you. You come to me if you have questions. Or when you know it's time to register, you start finding out when I can be in the office to meet with you so that you can come and talk to me about what you're going to take the next semester. So that's another part of responsibility that I think I would hope my students would have when they come to Murray State. Another thing that you're probably very aware of is study skills. I would hope that by the time they came to Murray State, they would have figured out the best way for them to study. Everyone has different tactics of how to study, different strategies for studying. If they figured it out, or at least have some basic idea, by the time they come to Murray State, I think it helps them out a whole lot. Some students study better at 2 o'clock in the morning. I never did. I was always in bed by 11 o'clock at night. Drove my roommate crazy, but that was my study habit. I studied earlier in the day when I was fresher. She likes to study a little later. It doesn't matter as long as they're studying, as long as they're getting everything under control and organized, and have figured out the best way for them to go about studying. Sometimes that is problematic that first semester, trying to get that in hand and how to go about doing your best study, when, where, and how. But I would hope that they would be able to figure that out pretty quickly if they haven't already figured it out in high school. Another thing I thought of is I would hope that they would have a desire and a willingness to think critically about what we're studying. I'm not here to give them answers. I'm not here to tell them how to think. I'm here hopefully to guide them to find some answers, to be a resource for them in finding their answers. I would hope, particularly as education majors, which is my field, they would have a curiosity about things and want to be curious enough to ask questions and then to seek out answers and use me as a resource for that. As kindergartners, as preschoolers, children are so curious. A lot of times somewhere along the way we lose that. And I would hope that our students would not have lost that by the time they got to us. Or if they have, that maybe something here at Murray State would spark that curiosity again. I would love it if they were as passionate about teaching as I am. I don't know if that's really a realistic goal at this point because they've not been out there in the field. They've not done it as long as I have. They've not been immersed in teaching as I have. But that is, one of my passions. And if they're curious about it, if they're open to learning about it, if they're willing to say, okay, I'm getting a basic here, I'll learn more when I get out in the field, that's all I can ask for at that point. The willingness to think about things critically so that they can make some of those connections to what's going on in your life.